mean, that's the thing about like a lot of the AI stuff is it's been there for a while. Like that's what the algorithm is in a
Mhm.
lot of ways. It just sort of put it to the forefront, rebranded it. And
Yeah,
that's why so many people are like, I understand the worry about it. There is like a lot of legit worries about it. But
it is, and this sounds like a really interesting topic. But I think we decided on something else today. Is that
yeah,
right?
we're not going to talk about this in any way, shape, or form. I just wanted it. I wanted it to be made clear that
Yeah.
we can do smart things pretty well. We're pretty good at saying the smart stuff.
Mhm.
And we also have a new Zodiac that just dropped.
We do, and I'm very excited about it. I think it's going to be. I don't know. Well, why don't we talk about it? Hello, Brandon.
Yeah, we should talk about it. Hi, Andrew.
Mm, The the cat.
That's
Yeah,
Snake.
it's it's a cat,
It's a
but
cat. Love it. Hi,
it's
Andrew.
hey, how's it going?
You're
Um.
not. You're supposed to say hi, Brandon. Back.
Oh, hi, Brandon.
We have established a
That's right.
thing. Hi, Andrew.
Hi, Brandon. See, well, and this is actually kind of good because I think with our recent most recent Zodiac, we kind of changed the rules on ourselves actually as well.
There were some, and the closest we came to a
Mhm.
fight was in this one. That was exciting. So tell me what you did for the most recent Zodiac.
Well, I mean, I think the most I think the biggest thing is probably the most obvious thing in that with previous Zodiacs, they were um, separate musical entities,
Hmm.
and with this one, they were all, or not all of them, but several of them were kind of connected together,
Hmm.
and I sort of it wasn't an intentional thing at the beginning, but then once it started to happen, because we recorded the first one, and then with the second piece that you sent me, um, it just seemed to sort of link. And then when we were, I started to notice that I felt like your artwork was a little bit more thematic
Hmm.
as well, and so I sort of ran with that. And then it was interesting because I think at some points, uh, I was I think in the past I've been more reactive to your artwork.
Hmm.
And this one, I kind of made it a point to, in some cases, try to be directing you
Hmm.
as well. And I think that it was interesting to sort of see because I felt like in some places I was leading some, in some places you were leading, and then in some places I felt like we were really just in sync, with it.
Hmm.
So I don't know. So what about you?
This one was weird. So what I did with this
Mhm.
is one of the things I was really interested in this time, and I don't know. I know it shows up when we show it live, but I don't know if it shows up in the YouTube as
Mhm.
much. So still check out the YouTube, obviously. But one of the things I wanted was I didn't want images where I wanted images that the longer you would look at them, the more you would not understand what was going on.
Mhm.
There's a depth. So this is the first time that I didn't just email them to you. I had to put them in a Dropbox because
Mhm.
they were so heavy and big. And what I would do is I would take like a picture of the forest, and then I would erase a tiny bit of that forest, and then I would put an image behind it, and then I would mix those images together. And
Mhm.
then program I use has a feature that lets you like erase faces or erase this.
Mhm.
Um, and you can use it and it works okay. It actually doesn't work that great,
Mhm.
but you can also like kind of make it freak out and just erase random stuff. So
Okay.
I would do that for like a day or two. Like I would
Ah,
just create images on top of each other over and over so that you like forest and cities and pictures of your hands and just these deep things
mhm.
until you sort of had this background and this basis for something.
Okay.
And then then I would bring out images through that, and then I would destroy those images still even more,
Okay.
so that there was always sort of this decay to it. So in the first, if the I always think of where the zodiacs fit together.
Mhm.
Um, and for the first zodiac, it was very land based.
Mhm.
So this, and it was very much in the city
Mhm.
till it wasn't. But there's a sort of a story behind the first zodiac that we both are in agreement. And the
Yeah.
second zodiac was water based until
Mhm.
it sort of got to an island, and then the city was in the background of
Mhm.
the first one. and there were clips of where we were in the first one, but we were much more on this island and sort of this um, exploration. And one of the rules I had that I had to break here and there, but I had no eyes in the second one. The first one was really eyes based,
Mm,
and the second one didn't really have any eyes. And then the third one was based in my head, at least, on air.
mm,
So there's all these birds that show up
mm,
in the third one, and the idea is, and I know this isn't true, but I think it's an interesting thing to think, is that there is, when looking at the sky, there's sort of a density there that we never show,
mm,
that you can sort of see clouds way up there, and like you're seeing height. When you look at the sky, you're seeing height, right?
mm,
To some level, and you're seeing up, 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 and it's sort of doing, it's more, it's, you're seeing the atmosphere, and it's
mm,
it's um it's as it goes up, you are getting smaller and smaller.
mm,
So the images I wanted to do were just sort of these endlessly dense images that things were sort of pulled out from them.
mm,
That was the concept for this one. And the images were also so dense that for them to kind of work, I had to send them differently because they were
mm,
kind of getting crushed and just turning into all the specifics of the noise were getting lost.
yeah.
Because it's a noise versus signal thing for these.
Well, and I really like the density of it, and I think that's part of what I was reacting to, like with the way that I was composing, because I mean the tone, I mean if anyone's listened to it yet, it's like the
You
tone of the
laugh,
music.
man.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for
Yes,
listening.
yes, thank you for listening. I mean the tone is completely different. But and although there are elements, because musically, I was trying to tie things as well, just like you were doing with the art, I was trying to tie it to the past. And I don't it's not really, kind of a one-to-one representation, just like yours isn't, either, but it's kind of taking elements of, parts that happened in Leo and Capricorn and sort of bringing them over, because, I think both you and I want that connection,
Mhm.
to happen with whatever we're doing with the zodiac, I think. And I
Yeah.
think the other thing that was happening with me, I think, which is kind of related to what you're saying, is that in the past with Leo and Capricorn, I really made it a point just to do the music, and that was it. Like I didn't do any after I sent it to you. There were no more edits or anything like that.
Mhm.
With this one, because it was connected, I was listening to it a lot more. I was doing a lot more, not major revisions, but little details here and there that would sort of pull things out and
That
all
that
that.
will
And that
create
was a rule change for me. Yeah, yeah,
a
more of a
through line
creative
with the
arc.
music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, that's interesting. That also made one of our big, not big, it wasn't a fight. You just asked me to do a thing.
Yeah.
So I sent you an image and you didn't like it. You were like, I don't want to do this no more. Would you like to talk about that? Because we have a new image, which is an XX image in there.
Yeah. Well, no, it wasn't that I didn't like it. It's
I'm being
that,
sassy.
yeah. No, it's that, well, yeah, no, and that's, yeah, I'm sorry if that's the way it came through, because
It didn't. I'm being
it did.
sassy.
Okay, you're being sassy. Okay. No, and that was kind of a point where I really fought it, but I was like, no, I need the music to go somewhere else, and this image doesn't really work with what I want the music to do.
Mhm.
So that was, and that's a pretty big rule change, or pretty big breaking the rule example of breaking the rules, because like I think we've been pretty strict with ourselves about
Mhm.
those kind of things, and but I really fought with it. I was just like, no, it's we've got to do it this time, we've got to do it.
It's interesting because I knew that it's the image with the boat, and I
Mhm,
knew, so I started that image and I knew what I wanted that to be. And then I created the density that I meant to create, then I added the boat. And that's
mhm,
actually, that image in there, interestingly enough, ties back to both Capricorn and Leo.
uh-huh,
So if you look at that image, there's a character through line. There's a character marker I use on that, and
mhm,
whatever. It's the detective from the first. He has now joined the order. We don't know what that means,
mhm,
but that's if you look at that, you can figure that out. I won't explain that. I can explain it when this comes off, but you can
yeah,
tell that the way I marked the um, but it started with one image, and I tried really hard, and I had an image of this raging river, right?
mhm,
and I was working on it, and then I set stuff up, and this was also one where like I would build stuff, and then I would do something not random, that's not the right choice, but something
Mhm,
to like screw it up, and then just look at it and see if
mhm,
that. And more often I went, oh, that was interesting. And oftentimes with Zodiac, and this has always kind of been true. Sometimes I'll work on an image and I'll know it's done if it startles me. If I go,
mhm,
oh, gee, what the heck is that? And then I had a handful of those on this one where I went, oh, that's a little off-putting. And then it's funny because then I watched it when we did part of this Zodiac live. I
mhm,
was like, oh, I don't feel that way. I don't know if that translated. I don't know
mhm.
what put me in the headspace that I went, I find that unpleasant. Send it
Yeah.
to Andrew, make him deal with it. But I made this image and like it was this big loud moment, and then um it was this very still image, and
Mhm,
I didn't mean it to be still. It was
mhm.
just like I kept working towards trying to make it big and movement filled, and then it kept wanting to be stilled, and eventually it was one of
Wow.
those things I was like, you got to deal with it, man. Like it was, if it was a failure I would
Yeah.
have been like, if it was bad I would have redone it, but I was like, this image is interesting.
Mhm.
Also the idea of like, this is bit loud and cacophonous, you deal with it, dude. I don't
Right.
know, your music loud and cacophonous, and then you went, oh, I just need another image, which was interesting.
Yeah. Well, that is really interesting because that it's kind of interesting that we both sort of came upon that little uh I guess sort of fissure, in both, but we sort of approached it in different ways, but at the same time, like even though it felt like we were out of sync, but actually we were very much in sync. Now that
Mhm,
I'm hearing what you're saying, um, and because I think that it ended up like kind of working out perfectly,
mhm.
because I did like when you sent it to me, I felt like, yeah, this is just a still moment, and that's really what it needs to represent, and just hearing like the how it came to be about is really interesting. So
Yeah, and
mhm,
when I say I tried hard to,
yeah.
like, make it a not still mo like, and I had the boat, and the boat was gonna be, like, literally so in that image, it's blandly placed.
Mhm,
Um, I'm not trying to complain, but, like, the image is, like, it's the boat is, like, center,
mhm,
and then it pulls out the eye in really easily.
mhm,
It
yeah,
was supposed to, like, come from an angle and, like, come down, but I just moved it center to, like, move stuff around, and it was like, "Boom, this is what it is. This is the
yeah,
stillness. This is the image." And, like, I couldn't argue with it.
mhm, yeah,
I couldn't, and I kept and I worked, and you can see like I added stuff. I added the a lot of times what I do with those images
mhm,
is as it goes in, the image gets tiny. Like, I don't want to say imperceptibly, but you would really have to look at
mhm,
it, but bigger as you go in through circles. And I like worked really hard to try to make this image the of a movement in this
mhm,
image really say loudness. And it was just
mhm,
at some point I had to go like, it's gonna be this quiet moment, and
yeah,
like it the idea of this and like one of the things that happens in Zodiac is we sort of go down these
mhm,
paths. Like, you can
right,
feel it go down, and like you almost have to make the decision to sort of pull up a little bit.
yeah,
You have to go, okay, we're like we've made a thousand-eyed monster, and then you make the thousand-eyed monster song, and then I make the reaction to the thousand-eyed monster song, which is a
mhm,
million-eyed monster.
mhm,
Uh, but this one, like normally when pulling up, you pull up slow, you pull it back
right,
up. And this image was like, and I felt bad because I honestly felt bad because like it felt like I was ignoring the music, but like
mhm,
I knew where I started. I knew that through my process of listening to this,
yeah,
this is what came. So
right,
like it was still the right thing to do. And then you were like, okay, can we do XX? And I'm like, that fixes whatever I was gonna do.
yeah,
Because I also like it didn't feel like one of the saints. It's a saint is
yeah,
in it, but it didn't feel
mhm,
like one of the saints. It felt like it
exactly, yeah.
belonged in Zodiac.
No, I totally agree because like I was kind of thinking the same thing. Like maybe we could sort of approach it like a spinoff or something like that, as well. But no, it felt like it really was supposed to be part of the Zodiac, but it just um oh better to, but it's just well I mean it's so fascinating like and this is part of the magic of like not talking about it,
Mhm.
that it really felt like, there was sort of like this moment, but actually, like, now that we're talking about it, I mean, it really does, like, we were both experiencing the same thing and we both wanted the same thing. So it's
Yeah. Well, and like, and I knew I wanted to like. We're always doing this. Like that's what
Mm,
Zodiac does. Is it
exactly. Yeah.
goes weird dark imagery, and then we kind of pull up, and then it
Yeah.
goes back down, and that's sort of the flow of Zodiac. And I
Yeah.
thought this image sort of went like this faster than
Yeah.
it was supposed to.
Mhm.
But then I was like, well, that's interesting.
Yeah. Well,
Like
and sometimes that works, I think, because there were a couple places, I think, in all three of them,
yeah.
where that happened, and I think it can work, so it's not that it's necessarily a bad thing, but I think for that particular moment, like,
Mhm.
it needed to be finessed a little bit, I think. So yeah.
Yeah, it was an interesting,
Mm.
like, how do we deal with this? And
Yeah.
it's one of my favorite little sequences
Yeah.
still. So cool. Good talk, Andrew. Good
Me
talk.
too. Well, and that's why I want to do it live, which we can talk more about later, of course, but
Yeah,
yeah, that whole sequence, the what I think I'm calling it part three, is
it feels like
like,
birthday.
yeah, that was kind of my favorite part of the whole
Mhm.
Pisces zodiac. So
I like the backhand a lot too.
yeah.
Uh, it's interesting. I keep threatening to, and I will, but I think next week we
Mhm.
know we start with Zodiac, we start with
Yeah.
Capricorn, and we create the through line, and we figure out how we got here, which is
Yeah,
worth exploring.
absolutely.
So
So tune in next week.
tune in next week. If you want to do a listen along, we're doing Capricorn this week. We're going to talk about Capricorn for 15 minutes.
That's right.
Good talk, Andrew.
We'll give you all the behind the scenes stuff.
We got all the behind the scenes stuff and how we feel about it now, which is going to be like, wow, what were we thinking?
I know,
Crazy,
it totally is.
so cringe.